Hey everyone, welcome to the second day of People Matters Tech HR Singapore Virtual Week. Now, it was a marvelous start yesterday, and I'm sure all of you have enjoyed the scintillating keynote sessions and the interesting conversations with Guy Kawasaki and Colin. Now, we have an interesting day planned for you with lots of exciting sessions, masterclasses, and startup elevator pitches. We are also running some exciting challenges throughout the day. So do visit the Contribute to Win tab and learn more to win some exciting prizes like the Google Mini, the Amazon Echo, and so many more. We will make sure that you will not just have loads of learning, but you will also have loads of fun and the chance to win many different prizes. We are also running a LinkedIn contest, so do keep sharing your learnings and experiences with the larger community on social media. You will then get a chance to win a Marshall Bluetooth speaker every single day of the event. Just do not forget to use the hashtag TechHRSG while posting. The winner will be decided on the basis of the quality, quantity, and reach of your social media post. Let's now gear up for the upcoming session of the day, which will take us through the need for enterprise acceleration and how it has become critical for enterprises in the era of digital disruption. Now, to deliver this keynote, we have with us Mr. Holger Mueller, who is the Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research. He is a HR tech influencer who focuses on next-gen apps and the future of work. Now, he has worked in top technology companies and has progressed from successfully building softwares for 25 years to becoming one of the go-to guys in predicting the future of technology and work. Welcome, Mr. Holger, and over to you.
Hello everybody, it's Holger Müller here from Constellation Research, welcoming you to this presentation about important topic in the current pandemic times, which is about the enterprise acceleration perspective, how people leaders need to react in a pandemic world. Obviously a key topic, top of mind for everybody who's working in enterprise overall, and relevant for HR leaders who are the people leader representatives in the enterprise. So glad you're with me. So let's dive right into this. What is the different topics we're going to talk about? I'm going to give you a framework. We're going to talk about the new normal. We talk about success strategies for enterprises, and we'll have some recommendations for you to share. Let's jump right into it. We've taken a look at thinking about where will your enterprise be 5 years from now. I know there's a lot of current concerns right now, which you may want to address, but you have to keep an eye on the long-term perspective because things are significantly changing and we tend to overestimate what's going to happen in 1 year and underestimate what's going to happen in 5 years. So it's very important that you keep this perspective going. Next, of course, we have the question about the framework that we talked about. And there's things which are macro trends which we cannot influence at all. This is like when there's going to be a serum against the pandemic. Who's going to be the next US president in fall of this year, and so on. You can only react on them, you can make scenarios for them, but they're part of the whole framework which you cannot influence. Closer to home for you as the people leader are dynamic workforce aspects, right? So how is the population changing? What are the demands of the different generations in the workforce? How is the ratio of how many people you will be able to hire to in 5 years to 10 years and so on going forward to that? And then there's disruptive technology, that's what we talk about a lot. And then there's even new digital business models, which are super relevant for you to use in your enterprise for being relevant and being competitive in your market. So let's look quickly at what are the main parts here. Globalization is a key aspect in this overall game. Globalization is the strongest business trend that you've seen in the last 50, 60, 70 years since World War II. Is it going to stop because of the pandemic? No, it's not. So you better prepare for globalization. Then there's digitization, and we're going to talk about this a lot, how digital technologies transform the way how we work. And then there's an aging population problem, right? The first world, and you're in India, you're lucky you're not fully affected by that, but think about this, how it influences automation needs, where we right now operate in a model where 6 people are working and 1 person is retired, and we're moving in 20 years from now to two people working for one person retired. So that's a completely different dynamic, totally different force on improving automation and increasing automation. I haven't put in the slides here. There's something very interesting how China, who has this problem very much as well. India, as I mentioned, doesn't have it necessarily, but different geographies have it, how they're lagging that effect. So in general, people are having less children, so you have to think about automation in general and how that propels you forward. And then, of course, we have this little thing, right? A little virus, a pandemic, which is really putting things in change and changing everything for enterprises as we know them and we see them out there. So let's understand what it means when we can measure this from an acceleration perspective, right? And the interesting part here is if you look at all the indices which are out there, the financial indices, 52% of the Fortune 500 are no longer there since 2000. Let's look at another index because this might be thwarted to the Fortune 500. Let's look at the only 4 enterprises that remained in the Dow Jones 50. So all the other ones are no longer part of it. Is this a US thing? No, it's a European thing as well. Let's go to the German index, DAX, where there's been 100% turnover in just 30 years. Is it a German thing? No, it's an English thing as well. 264 members are no longer part of the FTSE. Is it a European American thing? No, in the Nikkei, we also have 210 of the 225 members gone. Back to the US, right, to show you how fast it is for a company to be part of the S&P 500 in 2013. They were just, the new entries were just 10 years old, right? They were founded this millennium, this century, to be big enough to be part of the S&P 500. So what happened to the ones who fell out? Yes, some of them went out of business, but that's a small portion. A bigger portion of them got merged, right? They got acquired. But the biggest part why companies are no longer part of these financial indices is they just did not grow fast enough. So what does it mean for enterprises? You need to think about how you can accelerate your enterprise, how you can stay relevant, how you can be faster and more agile than your competition. And let's look at this in a little more in detail. The key thing for you, of course, as the people leader is to get the mix right? The mix, like a great barkeeper will get a drink right, and often the recipe is secret and you can't talk about it. That is the right mix which you have to get there, right? The people and technology mix is what you need to get right. And that's your responsibility, at least on the people side. But your understanding of the technology side is key. So if you operate in this new normal, life has changed like never before, right? This is the most busy intersection in the world. In Tokyo, you never have a chance to count the people walking over it. Now you have a chance to count the people who are walking over this busy intersection easily if you wanted to. We don't want to spend time on this. Instead, we want to count sheep. Just kidding. But here, the sheep are taking back this little village in Ireland where they're just walking on Main Street, which has never happened in a few hundred years, I guess. And then there's a new normal, right? Starbucks, as an example, very popular, cannot operate their stores, at least in the US and Europe. Only drive-thrus are open because they maintain social distancing. Guess what? In Europe, there's not many drive-thrus. I've not seen a drive-thru in Asia either, but I've not traveled all of Asia. So let me know if there's Starbucks drive-thrus who were open in the pandemic. And then, of course, there's 3 different personas of enterprises, right, which we label in. We try to make it catchy, so we start them with 3 S's, right? There's, of course, the element of the super busy ones, right? Those are the healthcare companies, those are the retail companies, all the essential business. They have no time to really think about something. If you are in one of these industries, time to think about what happens, because you're moving from running a sprint, right, catching out fires, to a 5K, to now you probably realize the marathon. And that means you cannot neglect all your systems either, despite you running so fast. The second segment, and this is much, much bigger, that's 30-40% of the economy, are the stutterers, right? These are companies who operate in multiple locations and with that are differently affected in terms of what they can do, where they can remove, what they can open, what they can't open, right? They're on, off, and often in the complication of multiple locations, making them going on, off. And the last segment, unfortunately large one for many economies, like for instance the airlines, are the sideline ones. They cannot operate at all, or they operate at a much, much smaller footprint than they have done before. And each of these 3 segments has different distinct strategies, demands, and needs how they can move. Right? The general questions for all of them is, of course, is this the end of density, right? We've been proposing density as the solution for making people work better together, work closer together, do things together, right? But can we maintain the density as we know, as we've seen this before? Probably that's going to be a significant question that we cannot. Right? We have seen a significant acceleration on top of what I showed you in the indices already, right? Traditional economic cycles are 7 years. Now we're moving down to 7-day cycles. You get a notice you can open, you have 2-3 days to open, get people in place, return to the workplace, make the workplace safe, you operate, and if you're unlucky, like for instance hairdressers or nail salons here in California where I live, you were open for 2 weeks, so you had basically 2-3 days of notice, or sometimes only 24-hour notice that tomorrow you can no longer be open and operating. Offices, if you just opened an office a few months ago, unfortunate for you if you were able to open it, congratulations, but it looks like a very bad return of capital right now when nobody is there. And what's the success strategy? Of course, everybody is working from home who can work from home in those works. It always looks so nice, like this lady here, organized desk and so on, flowers in the background. Well, mine doesn't look like this. This is why I have a background screen here. And the reality is more like this, where a parent here is handling 2 kids, taking care of them, and then the part I like the most is like trying to juggle work and household. And you can see here, probably you can't see my mouse pointing to it, the electronic nanny is active, right? The electronic nanny is working actively, trying to help one kid occupied and busy. So it's much, much more difficult than in theory. And what's really happening is, right, what I call the automation imperative, right? Companies have to automate all the time. That's nothing new. And if you put this on a grid between affordability and quality, what is the lesson learned from the pandemic is you have to automate what you can automate, right? Because things which you have automated in software will work no matter if people are sick, if there's a pandemic, or anything else like that, right? So what happens is, effectively, is the sweet spot where your automation part is moving down into less affordable solutions on the one side, and which are more expensive, but you want to automate, and less quality. You're accepting a lower degree of quality for these solutions. So significant different perspective on automation is key here. Because ultimately you need to achieve this thing, right, which this gentleman is showing here. You need to be comfortable that the speed that your enterprise can move and adapt and change and execute is higher than the speed how your markets are changing. Right? It's a very bad spot for you if the speed of your markets are changing, which is a combination of market demands, customers, your competitors, the partner ecosystem, suppliers. If they move faster than you, it's usually not a very good sign for you to remain relevant and remain part, for instance, of the index as an example. So there's 9 drivers for enterprise acceleration. Let me quickly give you the overview of them. It has to be business user-centric. I'll talk about this, probably the most important one of them. You need to enable big data. You need to be enabling machine learning to get that automation closer to HR. You need to find faster and better ways to recruiting. You need to have something crucial, which I call the talent depth chart. You need to have transboarding. I'll talk about this in detail as well. You need to have a solution to fix performance management. As you know, performance management is not really working well. Humans don't like to rate humans, so I have to fix that in the sense that you can find whether people are to perform, you can do pay for performance and so on. Second century learning is modern learning, 21st century learning, not second century learning. Is key, is crucial. You need to use your sidelined workforce for qualification for skills where your enterprise needs it, where employees are motivated to do that, to keep their skills up and going, where they have potentially more time at their hand. And last but not least, it cannot be one size fits all. If you have different business, you might be different in verticals, you might be different HR solutions. If you're in different countries, might be different HR solutions. There cannot be a monolithic one functionality for everybody's solution to this. Let's look a little broader for a second. Let's look at what is happening on the overall post-pandemic playbook, which needs to happen in the overall company, right? One crucial thing we're seeing a renaissance, doing a lot of research on this, is the new leadership principle, the co-CEOs, but even taking that more down in the company, in your enterprise. Why is it so relevant? Well, it's simple, right? 4 eyes and 4 ears, see more, do more, have more presence, are not restricted by traveling. You have 2 CEOs to meet with employees, to meet with customers, to do deals. They could be based on 2 different continents or on different regions, and they can therefore significantly higher presence. The key thing for your overall enterprise speed, but it's not just the people on the top, it's the overall enterprise which needs to be needs to have dual leadership down to a reasonably low level to have the benefits of that. You need to come up with more tactical succession planning. Succession planning, nobody does it. So my advice is just say about, like, say if you're sick or you have to take care of loved ones, who would run this? Much, much easier to do in Europe, by the way, where people take 3-4 weeks of vacation. Then there has to be somebody in place to take care of what is happening. You have to reestablish on-site healthcare, right? And this might not be the traditional hospitals the founders of capitalism would put in place because there were no hospitals for their workers. This could be just that you implement temperature scans when you come in. But then you have to think about, what do I do if an employee is too warm? Do I just send them home? Do I have some taking care of them? What if they go home and can't recover because there's no capacity, right? This thinking all leads to more on-site healthcare in enterprises, which is a big trend. You need to enable the remote workplace. The company who does it better, more productive, faster moving, more agile, more mobile workplace will succeed. You need to secure the workplace, cleaning protocols, relevant things where to do, which have to share with people. When can they work on something? What can't they work? What's the social distancing at the workplace? Those are key questions which you need to address. And then globalization matters, right? If you're in two countries which are riding different waves, because right now we're all surfers of the pandemic waves, of the opening, reopening, which is unfortunately going to happen in many locations, it's key that you have multiple locations, ideally in different countries, different places. So business user empowerment, I'm super passionate about this one because this is the empowerment of the first level, second level business person who's working in your enterprise. If you help these people to succeed, if you provide the tools for those first and second line managers to be successful, you will be successful in the company. So this doesn't mean thinking in silos, but thinking in people and their demands with what they need to do. Super important, most important of the 9 accelerator strategies. Right? What is the CHRO going to do? Right? What's the relevant things there? You see a renaissance of HR core, and I talk about this in detail. You see payroll flexibility is important, benefits flexibility, workforce management agility. There's a learning opportunity, obviously, talent mobility matters, the gig economy matters, and talent acquisition acceleration. So let's look at them in detail, right? HR core renaissance, right? For a long time, the HR core system was something old, not something relevant, something you wouldn't have to use. Right now, all of a sudden, you realize, I can't reach my people. I don't know who's available. What are their phone numbers? I have to do this all by hand. That's not the right solution. Innovation like voice, as a new UI for self-service, for vendor self-service are all crucial to bring your HR system and your HR core system up to speed to where they should be in the 21st century. Payroll needs to be much, much more flexible, no question. You need to be able to do one-time bonuses. There's going to be taxation changes. There's going to be relevant other changes which you have to play out in different ways. You have to be more flexible in terms of work hours and so on. So your payroll system needs to be significantly more flexible. The same thing for your benefits. You might want to check your benefits, which you're providing right now. They may not be relevant. The gym membership is sunk money paid to a gym provider, which is probably not even open. They might be happy to take your money, not what you want to give your employees. So you need to find a faster way, back to enterprise acceleration, to reshuffle and to re-optimize your benefits as you're using them. And then, of course, the big aspect of workforce management agility, who can work, what can work, a much, much more expanded focus, because all of a sudden you need to do shift planning, workforce planning, even for your white-collar employees. Talent mobility is super important, especially when you pivot or change. Who is the right person, who you want to move in which position, who has the skills for the new position, not just globally, but internationally. You have to be ready for the gig economy, because in many cases, especially in the stutterer segment, you may not be scaling an integer in 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers of FTEs, but you might be starting at 33%, 25%. That screams for a contractor or gig worker solution. And then, of course, you need to be faster in talent acquisition. That is a very, very important part. You have to find talent faster. You have to bring it on board faster. You have to train it faster. All super, super relevant for you to compete, like in the 100-meter Olympic race. And by now you figured out I like sports and Olympics. So what are the success strategies, right? And the recommendations. Software is eating the world. Nothing is more true than relevant. Your software determines the success in your enterprise. You need to move faster. You need to become more agile. There's no question about this. I hope I gave you enough examples for that. And one thing I want to dive in a little more is about business model fitness. Right? Your business has to be fit like a sports star, so a sports athlete. Right? You have to become more elastic. Open up, close up sooner. Your infrastructure has to support this. You have to be differently thinking about capacity. That is not just the capacity, how much you put in your warehouses so you can operate longer without disruptions in delivery. That also means what's the capacity of your workforce? How much can you scale it up, scale it down? And what is the skill? What can they do? Right? You talked about acceleration, no need to spend time on here. What's also important is your adaptability. You need to be able to change to different work environments. And you need something, which is a new term I'm coining here, you need to have leapability, right? You need to be able to move from one business model to another one. Yeah, I like to go to spin classes, indoor cycling classes, highly affected by Corona. What have they done? They changed and leaped their business model from being brick and mortar, come in the studio, nice atmosphere, great trainer, great sense, great lights, very different than working out from home, to renting out the bikes and providing virtual classes, losing everything which differentiated their value proposition. A huge leap in terms of to people doing sports, right? So very interesting aspect. Leapability is the part which you want to be aware and train for your business. And you want to implement something I call the sentient enterprise, the listening enterprise, where you can create strategies and validate them through surveys in an automatic way without human interaction. There has to be a listening mesh to see what's happening with customers, suppliers, partners, and of course employees. And this has to be driven from an overall big data perspective, so it's available for you to be analyzed and available for any further questions you have. So you need to have your enterprise speed exceed the speed of your market. So you're as comfortable as the lighthouse keeper in the Jumeau lighthouse west of France, Britannia, I think, when these waves are crashing into the lighthouse, in your case, your enterprise. This means you need to use new platforms. You can't do this on your existing old systems. You need to have new best practices. I hope we showed you some of them and tapped some into them. You need to figure out not to just working about digital artifacts, your systems of record, but everything that your enterprise creates, also your digital exhaust, and the combination of that is super relevant. You need to empower your business, and especially the first and second line business users, as we mentioned. And you need to think and prepare for something which is the biggest transformation happening in the next 5 years. From my view, if you ask me, that's going to be deep learning, that's going to be software learning by itself, what your people are doing, extracting all the practical things people are doing from the digital footprint of your people and your enterprise into automation. Well, thank you all for watching. If you like this, it's not going to be a person event. Join us for our Constellation Connected Enterprise events, going to be digital. No question about this, like everything in fall of this year. If you have any questions, here are my detailed information. Feel free to reach out for me. Of course, I'm also on the app of the conference. We'll be asking questions. We'll be in the speaker room. Thank you so much for watching. This is Holger Müller from Constellation Research. Follow me also on Twitter if you have a chance to do so, and get a lot of updates from that perspective. Thanks for attending. Appreciate it.
Now, thank you so much, Mr. Holger, for helping us understand what it truly takes to be a disruptor when it comes to technology. Now, Mr. Holger will be joining us in the speaker room for taking live questions from all of you. For those who have pre-registered to join Holger in the speaker room, please visit the Agenda tab. Now click on the speaker room session with Holger and you'll find the Zoom link to join him live. For the others, do stay here in this track with me for our very next keynote of the day with Alex Margaret from ServiceNow. You can click on the Alex session and join us there. Thank you.